For professional advice with a personal touch, consult FL Fuller Landau, Chartered Professional Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
Good evening. Welcome to today's Entrepreneur, presented by FL Montreal, a program about the entrepreneurial spirit that drives Quebec business. My name is Dan Delmar, along with FL Montreal's Josh Miller. Good evening, sir.
Hello, Dan.
And this evening on the program, we're going to the dentist.
Well, I think the dentist is coming to us this time.
That sounds actually more pleasant than how I framed it originally. Yes, we're
no traumatic, no trauma for you, Dan.
No
You don't have
drills.
to relive anything.
The dentists are coming to us, indeed. Warren and Jason Retter of Retter Dental Care are going to be with us. And later in the program, we're going to talk about family businesses and transitioning. And Peter Bradis will be joining us to talk about that on the program. And I thought we would start, Josh, on that note, actually. And I don't have an advice question to start this week because things are all right. I got no work stress today in particular for some reason.
For a Monday, that's not so bad.
It's pretty rare. But I did marathon the show Succession over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I'm midway through the second season now, and perfect timing to talk about Succession tonight on the program. It's literally one of the most popular shows on TV right now, and I would say one of the smartest as well. So you got to check it out, but basically it involves this media company, this family, and it's the dad who's obviously going to retire soon, and then the four siblings, I think, are going to fight over the job to see who takes over. And so right now, because there's so much doubt about what the succession plan is or who the successor is going to be, there is nervousness among the investors. There is rebelling among the employees. There's infighting and power grabbing among the senior executives. What happens if the leader just doesn't know?
Sounds like every other day,
right?
You know?
We've talked about these scenarios before, and it's really interesting to see them on a fun TV show. But what are some of the consequences if a succession plan isn't in place with a family business like this?
The business could fail, or it could go in the wrong direction, or people could lose a lot of money, or all of the above. There's so much that has to be taken into consideration, and I actually haven't seen the program. It would be interesting to see, but definitely have lived many of those circumstances over time with many family businesses, with even businesses without family, but that have those senior executives that feel like their family or have been portrayed to be part of the group and part of the succession. Yeah, but you got to plan, and if there's no plan and there's no communication, because it starts, middles, and ends with communication, if there's no real communication and properly delivered, know your audience, because you don't want people to feel threatened. You want them to feel included, but they also need to have enough knowledge to be able to help make the decision. There's so many aspects. Are you talking to somebody that's been in the business for 20 years or 2 years? Are you talking about the next generation that has been there and working for a long time, or are you talking about the next generation that just started? Is there a sense of entitlement? There's so many aspects that come into play. It can be absolutely very hairy, and it wouldn't surprise me if Succession went on for another 10 seasons, because there's so many things that can go well and so many things that can go sideways. And if there's no communication, then not so good.
In this case, the kids are all kind of screw-ups in their own special way, and so now the debate is, well, do we go to an outside source and maybe find a CEO or someone from outside the family? What advice would you give to the Roy family of Succession if you're gonna bring in this outside influence, but navigating all these complicated family matters?
Well, for all those PhD kids, i.e. the Papa has dough, there's the goal at the end of the day is to maximize value for the family. That should be the goal. It's yes, you may step on some egos, and ego is a 4-letter word in many families. The goal is to maximize the value at the end of the day, because no kid wants to be left with zero or next to it. They want to have their trust funds, or forget trust funds. They want to have enough to live out their life relatively comfortably, or at least enough to live and survive and don't have to be on the street. And if the best solution is parachuting in an outside party that has better knowledge and a better track record, or a track record, and knows how to work things, and that's in the best interest of the family as a whole, well, then that should be what happens. But as we all know, humans are humans, egos are egos, and families are families, and sometimes they don't mix so well together.
All right, if you want to check it out, Succession is on HBO Canada and Crave. This is interesting. Investors pouring billions into prop tech. So first, what is prop tech?
Property technology. Like we've spoken a lot about fintech. There's all the apps online that to help save money and invest your funds and all that. Prop tech is exactly the Airbnbs of the world. That's a prop tech, and there's a lot of money that going into it. I mean, Open Door buys homes directly from sellers in exchange for cash, and there's $300 million that went into that. You have Compass that hosts real estate listings on an easy to use online platform. There's almost $400 million that went into that. You have Nextdoor that keeps people up to date on events in their neighborhood. There was about $170 million that went into that. So there's so many aspects about that touches real estate. So that's the prop tech, the property technology that's out there. And we haven't, we've seen a lot of it, but I'm sure there's a lot more to come as you talk about communities and real estate. And I mean, not block parties necessarily, but maybe a little bit of that too.
I think this next topic may have come up in a recent show, but it's interesting from entrepreneur.com how a VC wants to be pitched. So how does a venture capital firm want to be pitched versus, say, a bank?
Well, I think the bank really needs its numbers. They have to make the story, but they also have to believe in who's behind it. The VC is really buying into a story. They're buying into an experience. Make the pitch an experience. Make the pitch something that that the ultimate consumer just needs to be a part of. Use imagery, show image. Just talking about it and showing numbers isn't necessarily what the VC will get connected to. Yes, important at the end of the day, but use the imagery, use the pictures. Certainly be open to questions, but that's kind of a given. I would say also keep things pretty concise. If you ramble on too much, you might lose the interest of that VC or anybody for that matter. And I guess always have enough of your own backstory. Always have enough of your experience that comes into play, because not only they're buying into a story of what the next great product or service is, but they're buying into you, or they're buying into the management team or the talent that's behind it. So always have that backstory as to why, and have that part of their experience as well, so they get to understand more.
From Inc.com, top 3 things you should have a recruiter help you with.
And this one, it's less about the top 3 things you can have a recruiter help you with, and more about using outside parties. I was reading this article, and yes, it basically says hire a third party, outsource for the things that you don't do well, and keep what you do well. And I think that's the crux behind this, regardless whether it's a human resource, whether it's another professional, it doesn't really matter what it is. It's really, if you can do it really well and it doesn't take up time, or there's no opportunity cost for you doing it, well, then do it, because you know yourself and your product and your culture and your service the best. But if you don't know what you're doing, leave it to the expert. Don't waste your time. Don't spin your wheels. There's an opportunity cost for you taking that time and effort and energy, and it won't necessarily pan out. So while the article talks specifically about human resources and recruiting, I say it really applies to any third party, any outsourced person. Do what you do well, hire what you don't do well, and make sure you don't lose that opportunity cost.
Today's Entrepreneur on CJD 800. We're not going to the dentist, but we'll have dentists come to us next and talk about the business of dental care with Warren and Jason Retter of Retter Dental Care, and they are next. Welcome back to today's Entrepreneur, inspiring stories from outstanding business people. Dan Delmar and FL Montreal's Josh Miller with you. And this evening we welcome a father and son team, Warren and Jason Retter of Retter Dental Care. Welcome, guys.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming.
And the toughest question of the week, very first question that we ask. And while everybody, or a lot of people, should have a good understanding what a dental practice does, we will ask you, what is Retter Dental Care? What do you guys do specifically?
We practice dentistry. It's me and Jason.
As he says with a smile, showing off the pearly whites.
And Lindsay. And actually, Retter Dental Care got named when Jason joined the practice. Before it was just Dr. Warren Retter. And now we're Retter Dental Care.
And is it all the typical services? Like, do you do any, like, is there basic? Like, maybe you can just describe all the services that kind of come into play.
Well, we do basic dentistry. Jason does a lot of implants, a lot of surgery. We do tons of cosmetics. I've been doing cosmetics dentistry for almost 40 years, and a lot of crown and bridge. We're basically do all kinds of dentistry, and we do what we like to do best, and what we can produce best.
Maybe it's easier to ask what you don't do, because it sounds like there's a lot of stuff that happens under one roof. What don't you really do as a dental practice?
So we don't do orthodontics. We don't straighten teeth. We do a lot of the other fields of the other disciplines of dentistry. I would say that's the only one we pretty much refer out about 100% of the time. Otherwise, I mean, when I first started out, I went on a continuing education binge where I was out of town doing 3 to 4 day courses week in, week out for years. And I mean, that hasn't stopped, but it's less now as life evolves, and I have a family now and things like that, so I can't just take off all the time. But my wife, hi Lindsay, hi Jackson, Victoria, and Annabelle, I promised I would say hello to them. In any case, I would go around figuring out what I loved, and even when I was a resident, I was really turned on to surgery, and so I spent a lot of time studying for that, and I ended up getting 2 fellowships in implantology. We used to do a lot of that. To answer the question that you asked, we basically...
So do you specialize in that specifically?
I mean, I'm not a specialist. I'm a general dentist. We do cosmetics, I do crown and bridge and stuff like that, but I've taken the time and energy to make sure that I'm practicing at the standard of care in implantology, and I do a lot of it.
Jason does a lot of the implants of the office. I'd say he does 80% of the patients who require implants in the office. He does a great job.
Is it tough to stay up to date? I mean, there's with whatever's occurred over the years, and you certainly go to school for a long time. Is there a lot of professional development that happens throughout the year?
Yeah, there always is. We're always going to courses. It's the only way you can maintain and learn. And we take our staff. I mean, we took our staff to Vegas for a course. I mean, we spend a lot of time.
It was a course in dentistry, of course, in Vegas,
totally,
right?
And
Just to clarify.
everything that happened in Vegas, we can bring it up. We can bring it back. No, but we spend a lot of time in continuing education, and we spend a lot of time with our staff going to continuing education. That's how you maintain a cutting edge in dentistry.
I think one of the hardest aspects of dentistry to stay current is to make sure that you know what works and what doesn't work, right? And because there's obviously, we're exposed to marketing like any other industry is, and trying to sift through what has potential, what doesn't, looking at studies, things like that. So there's no shortage of evolution in the field, and you just have to pick and choose. But if you're not staying current, and if you're not up to date, and if you're not investing in technology, it becomes boring. It becomes just a job, right? It's really... We're very passionate about what we do. We love it. We wake up in the morning, and I'm always excited to go to work.
So let's talk technology. I mean,
Sure.
you raise it, in technology, certainly it affects, in all the businesses and entrepreneurs that we've spoken with, Dan, it's rare that it doesn't have some effect. I would imagine certainly in the dental practice, it also can have a major effect. What have you done to stay current with technology? And thinking back, Warren, to 1980 when you just started,
what I was just going to say.
And growing from there.
If you would have told me 10 years ago or 15 years ago I'd be doing dentistry like this, I would have told you you're crazy. I mean, basically, we don't take impressions. We take digital impressions. We design teeth on computers. We mill the teeth in the office. We stain and glaze them. The patient comes once, one freezing, no temps, and they go home with their teeth. It's just remarkable. I mean, I can tell you a quick story. I had a patient in Florida last year who called me who broke her front tooth. And she says, I'm getting on a plane, you got to see me tomorrow. And I said to her, wait a second, didn't we do this with the computer? She said, yes. So I go into the computer, I have the tooth, milled out the tooth, FedExed it her overnight. She got her tooth, got a dentist to put it in Florida, and saved her a flight and saved her money. She didn't have to pay anything. I mean, that's the technology we have.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Wow. So you just celebrated your 40th class anniversary. Congratulations. What pieces of equipment, what's the next big breakthrough in dentistry that you're looking at?
Well, that's a very good question. I was just telling a patient today, I don't know what's going to happen next because I can't imagine things. I mean, everything is so accurate that we're doing and done on computers, and our treatment planning. I mean, like when Jason does surgery, he used to spend 3 hours to 4 hours on these surgeries. Now, if he spends 45 minutes to an hour, because before he goes in, it's all done. He knows exactly where he's going. It's all done by a CT scan, which we have in the office as well.
There's so much equipment that's out there. How do you choose? How do you know which one is the right one? How do you know what supplier
Jason wants
to
everything.
use?
We have everything.
Money's no
So-
object, you know.
I mean, I'm on different forums that have like literally about 10,000 dentists on there. And so you can kind of see what other people are doing and what works, what doesn't work. It's a pretty open and honest discussion. That's more for materials that we use for technology as well. And then obviously you have to look at what's coming down the pipeline as far as lectures, what's being advertised. I would say, you were asking about the future of technology. Things I've heard of is, now when we're doing a crown in-house, we have a milling machine. So essentially we have this ceramic block and we have a machine that cuts this ceramic block down into a tooth. I think lasers are down the pipeline with that. I think eventually we'll be doing it with lasers, 3D printers. We have a 3D printer in the office. I use it now to, when I plan my surgeries digitally using our 3D X-ray, I have something made on a 3D printer that essentially is worn during surgery, and it makes everything much more precise, and you see everything going on beforehand. So it's less surgical time. Often it's less recovery because you know what you're doing, you know what you're getting into. So that's, I think 3D printing, like eventually once the speed catches up with the technology, will probably be 3D printing stuff too, rather than just surgical guides, dental models, things like that. And then like further down the road, I mean, there's research and stem cells and stuff like that. So, I mean, who knows what the potential is for that going down the road.
So it's interesting. You're saving a lot of time with all the equipment, but the equipment costs something. So is one offset the other so that your rates don't get too affected?
Our rates have not changed because we keep upgrading and new computers and new CT scan. We don't. Our rates are the same. It costs a lot of money, but
you're gaining efficiencies.
Exactly, efficiency and your quality of work, and patients are happy. Everyone's happy. And like Jason said, I get up. It's 40 years I'm doing this. I get up every morning and I'm happy to go to work.
Because
So
you're working
just
with
to-
your son. Hang on, Jason. You say the same thing, getting up to go work with Dad?
We get along very well.
It's a
We're
pleasure
like two
working
peas
with
in a
Jason.
dental pod.
Yeah.
I mean,
And we're going to explore that together
Yeah.
in your working relationship when we come back shortly.
Warren and Jason Retter of Retter Dental Care on today's Entrepreneur. Coming up, we'll talk about transitioning family businesses. That's all on the way. Welcome back to today's Entrepreneur, a program about the entrepreneurial spirit that drives Quebec business. Dan Delmar and Josh Miller with you. Josh is from FL Montreal, of course. And this evening we're talking with Warren and Jason Retter of Retter Dental Care. And guys, we're going to talk a bit about marketing, perhaps.
Yep.
Let's go there first. So professionals, I nag. This is all I do all day long. Is I nag professionals. You have to market. You have to do social media. You have to do blogging. You have to do advertising. What do you guys do to get your word to get the word out there?
so I think the best way to build a practice, I think, is to build it organically, making sure your patients are happy and through word of mouth. But as you alluded to before, the reality these days is that you need to have some sort of media presence. So I pretty much started doing social media by myself. I was the one doing it when I first started, which was about 12 years ago. And then it evolved into a website, and now I think we're on version 4 of our website. We market online. I make sure that we're doing SEO, keywords, stuff like that. We work with other professionals. We do AdWords, I said, on Google. And now we actually have a team who works with us where we discuss what we want to talk about, and they create social media posts for us and stuff like that.
Is
They do
it
a great
worth
job.
it?
Is it worth it?
Dan, you're not allowed to answer.
So, I mean, I feel the necessity to have a presence on social media. I mean, it's everywhere. It's only going to get bigger. I think the platforms may change. I think for the younger people, it's more on Instagram versus for the older people, it's more Facebook these days.
Talking about me.
You're pre-Facebook, Warren. Your paper flyers on windshields.
Nobody walks into the office and says, "Hey, I saw this amazing post on Facebook. I want to," but it does get them into the funnel going towards our website. And then once you get to our website, I think it pretty much makes it very clear what kind of practice we run, things like that. And so, yeah, we definitely get patients that do not come from other patients who come from the internet. But as far as it worth it, I mean, I think it's necessary. Whether or not I get back the money we spend on ads, let's say, per se, on Facebook, I don't know. I don't know, but it's there, and we're doing it, and we're committed to it. So.
No question. No. So, but that's not the only marketing you do. I mean, there's community give back. I think you have that. How does that play into your practice?
We're involved in a lot of charities, and a couple times a year we basically close our office for the whole day, and we have all our hygienists. We have 3 or 4 hygienists. Jason, me, and Lindsay. We're working on patients all day with all our assistants. We have 13 girls in our office, and basically we do dentistry for free. Okay, for these underprivileged people, for a whole day, and we bang out a lot of work.
Have you been doing that for a long time?
We've been doing for a couple years now, and the purpose of that wasn't so much like I didn't have marketing in mind when I did that. I'm very grateful for my life, my profession, to be able to practice with my father all day. And I really felt like I wanted to give back in some capacity. And so we started talking about it. And the coolest thing about doing the work on people who are unfortunately in a circumstance where they can't afford it, they don't have access to care, is that, life changes for everyone. So a lot of these people eventually will get back on their feet, and then they come to see us as regular patients, And I had one person who we work with an agency specifically to screen the patients and just to make sure that when we do have that appointment, that day where we do it, it goes smoothly. I had one woman who broke her front tooth, and she couldn't get a job because she had no front tooth. She was too embarrassed to go get dental care. And then with the technology we have, I made her a brand new front tooth on the spot. And then a couple of weeks later, I got an email from her just thanking me so much, for helping her. And she actually got a job. So, I mean, what better validation for what we're doing than that,
I think it's great.
Oh, it feels
like a few
great
hockey
doing
players
it.
could use you.
I would love to see them.
You mentioned the hygienists and the other people in your care, in the dental care clinic. You're how many altogether approximately now?
13.
12, 13. I stopped counting.
Depending on the day.
Yeah.
Because they also don't work full time. So like every time I count, it depends on the day.
Difficult to find people, or is it constant? How do you retain your talent?
Right now we have a fantastic team. We have some girls in our office who've been in the office for 35 years, 34 years. I mean, me personally, I've had 3 hygienists in 40 years. They don't leave. We treat them well. Everyone works really hard, but we have a really good team. And if you have one bad person, it can ruin the whole team.
Have you had that experience?
Yes, we have. And then you work out and you interview. I mean, it doesn't take
It's a powerful lesson.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you make the change, it's...
And when we look for
evident,
someone, it's really easy for us to find. People know our office, okay? I mean, if we put an ad in that we're looking for someone, we got a lot of calls. Because it's a
Having
great job.
said that, there is, from what I hear, there's a shortage of hygienists. We have wonderful hygienists. Our whole team is amazing. Hi, guys. I know a lot of you were listening, so thank you so much for all your dedication and hard work. But, we train them, and they kind of feed off of us because they know that we're passionate about what we do. And then it's really a fun place to work. And so everyone is, I think, grateful ultimately. It takes a few months to get comfortable. Yeah. We do like team building stuff.
Yeah, next Tuesday we're taking the day off and we're taking the girls for lunch, and we're going to do some sports stuff.
Excellent.
I ask this question sometimes for people in sensitive businesses. You deal with people that are very stressed out. Have you developed techniques to calm them? What's your advice, and how do you make sure that they leave happy?
I think they feed off of you. So you have to make sure that they're confident in you, they trust you. Talk to them. Make sure you give a really gentle needle, because most of the time it's about that. That's the honest truth.
Things don't hurt anymore. Years ago they did.
So
there's no reason for anything to hurt in the dental office. I mean, it's not comfortable sitting with your mouth open for a couple of hours. But I mean, in terms of pain,
I have a stress ball with a picture of my face on it. Sometimes I'll give it to patients. And
you mean you bring it in from home? So let's switch gears a little bit. In just our last couple of moments, I want to talk about the buying and selling of a dental practice. Over the years, I don't know if you've purchased many practices or maybe you've been approached to sell. What are some of the things that you would consider, or what are things that you do consider when you're looking to buy a dental practice? Some specific things.
I think it comes down to the relationship we have with the clinician, because we're obviously at this point. We've bought a practice together. When I first started out, after about 18 months, I felt like I was comfortable enough to be able to run my own practice fully, and so I think about 2009, I ended up buying a practice. You want the transition to be seamless. You want patients to be able to trust you. And so a lot of it comes down to the personality of the dentist that you're purchasing from. You have to make sure that your practice philosophy is the same way. I mean, I tend to kind of look at it as like I leave my family at home and I go to my family at work, and that includes my patients and my team. And so if I see that, then I'm willing to start looking at, more financial aspects.
It has to work with our office.
Of course. Are you valuing the dentist, the associates, or future business the same today as you used to? Are you paying in the same way? Is it based on the revenue? Is it based on the bottom line? What do you typically base it on?
It's based on revenue. It's based on numbers and revenue, numbers of patients. I mean, when you're buying a practice. But like the practice that Jason's just talking about that we bought, he was after us. He kept calling and calling because he wanted his patients to be properly taken care of. And he knew that it would fit in perfectly in our office. And he was right.
For them, it's a legacy issue too, right? They want to make sure that their patients are going somewhere where they're comfortable. And when they see them later on, oh, how's it going? Oh, you're happy. Good.
And if you've been approached to sell, what would your feelings be about that?
We've been approached many times in the last 2 years. There's corporate dentistry is just trying to buy every big practice in Canada. It's been going on in the States for at least 10 years already. The answer is no. We're not interested. We do our own thing. And
so I think it is an interesting market shift. It's changed the way practices are evaluated and things like that. I think for some people it's a good idea. For us, I enjoy, because when you're doing that, you're essentially just working and then you leave as you are as an employee. I like the creative aspect of it. I like the planning. I like the thinking ahead. I like, checking out new technologies and going to courses and stuff like that. And so I'm not really willing to kind of hand the keys to the operation over to anyone.
You like running a business and not just being an employee.
It's fun. It's exciting. I mean, it's all part of the same passion, so I can't imagine not having that.
Life as an entrepreneur. Thanks very much.
And we'll have the one piece of advice for today's entrepreneur on the way from Warren and Jason Retter of Retter Dental Care. And up next, we'll talk about transitioning a family business with Peter Moraidis, tax partner at FL. Inspiring stories from outstanding business people, Dan Delmar and Josh Miller, for today's entrepreneur. And we have dentists in studio with us, Warren and Jason Retter, and we'll have their one piece of advice for today's entrepreneur coming up. But first, we welcome back to the show Peter Moraidis, tax partner at FL, to talk about transitioning family businesses. Welcome back, Peter.
Thanks, Dan.
So, Josh, I mean, we spoke about Succession earlier in the show.
We did. You're obsessed with this show, Succession.
Great show. Glad you guys have caught it as well. But it is a serious issue, so we have to plan these things out and also present a public face that inspires some confidence in the organization and investors as well.
There's no question. This is really quite a long topic, and we only have a few moments to go through it. And I know, Peter, you deal with this day in, day out, no question, with clients and passing the torch. But what are the first, maybe some recent items, or what are the first few things that come to mind when we're talking about transitioning to the next generation?
So unlike in Succession, which is based more on the American U.S. estate rules in the show, in Canada, one of our main pillars or policies in Canada that's advantageous to entrepreneurs and small businesses is the capital gains exemption, which is essentially where each individual is able to sell a business and can have a gain of up to $870,000 now, and is essentially tax-free. It's there to motivate entrepreneurs to try and have more people try and grow a business and sell it. And for a long time now, there's been rules in place that do not allow this same capital gains exemption to be available when there's transfers of businesses between family members. So Josh, you were saying, like, one of the things, whenever we see a situation where there's father and son or father or mother and daughter on a transition, is it becomes more expensive when a child wants to purchase a business.
How so? Like, what is the difference in the rules?
So essentially, they'd only be able to utilize a capital gains rate. So the capital gains exemption, which makes the capital gain tax-free, is not available. So Right now it's $870,000. It's supposed to move up with inflation up to $1 million. So eventually we're talking about a tax rate of 25% on $1 million, which is $250,000.
Tax savings potential.
Exactly. And there was one of the good things that came out of the July 2017, which any small business people know, where they stopped a lot of the rules on income splitting, was that there was a lot of noise in the media that came out about this specific issue. And since then, the government and the Liberal Party themselves have been saying that they were going to try and address it through new policy.
If you are in a business and there's going to be a transition plan, a family transition plan, is a family trust the way to go to organize that?
So a family trust is a way that we utilize it to be able to multiply the exemption, so to have many more different family members benefit from this tax-free amount of up to $870. But we're still not in a position where a child can actually use a corporation to purchase the shares of, let's say, the founder, and the founder get the capital gains exemption on the proceeds. So the family trust might help from an estate planning and maybe growing a business, but in terms
some
of
creditor proofing.
Yes, but in terms of actually getting hands into the dollars in the hands of the founder at a lower tax rate is not currently available.
So but that being said, like you mentioned earlier, you can still split if the family of the trust has been around a long time. You can still split the capital gains exemption. You sell to a third party, you can still share that under the right circumstances.
Oh, definitely, and that's something that from the proposals in 2017 that the government actually backed off on, because there was probably a lot of people that already had these structures in place. And but in a situation like, for example, like the Retters, where Warren is maybe not going to be in the business forever. He's going to want to maybe retire, although it sounds like he wants to keep working forever and hard. But I mean, at some point, families change, and the ability to work as many change. And when you're not able to get that same benefit, especially when we think of how many corporate conglomerates grow, and maybe how some of these companies end up being swallowed up by larger companies outside. This is like a policy that we actually should thrive to want, because it keeps our small business community within the family, which have been the ones who run the business the best overall. And actually, one of the things is that I'm a bit worried about is as part of the budget proposals from the Liberals that came out, they have always been talking that they were going to revise these rules to allow it to be eligible for small businesses and farmers. And in the recent proposals, the budget proposals, they seem to kind of mention the farmers, but they've kind of eliminated in their fine print anything about other small businesses. So I'm really curious to see.
Better headlines.
Exactly.
Yeah. So no, there's and that can continue to change as each government comes in. There's no question about it. Thanks very much, Pete. I know it's a big topic to digest in just a short while. And as we approach the last moment of the show, as we do each week, and we look at both generations here in the studio with Warren and Jason Retter, we'll ask you guys, what would be your one piece of advice for today's entrepreneur? And we'll respect our elders and start with Warren.
Thank you. Basically, be passionate at what you do. You have to love what you're doing, because if you don't, it's just work. For me, it's not work. I enjoy what I do. And I think really that's the most important thing, to be happy what you're doing, and then life is great, because a third of your life is working, third sleeping, and third's home, but third is working.
I'm glad he said at least a third is home. Thanks very much, Warren. And Jason, how about you? What would be your one piece?
Believe in yourself, be relentless in your goals, work hard, make sure you're passionate about it, and uphold your morals as you do so.
Excellent. Thanks very much. Dan, my quick takeaway just before we run away is technology is your friend. And if you can embrace it and invest in it, it will definitely help you. And, we heard that more at the top of the hour, but definitely something that entrepreneurs should absolutely embrace going forward.
Warren and Jason Retter of Retter Dental Care. Thanks, guys, and congratulations on your 40-plus year practice.
Thank you. I smell
Thank-
podcasts. Any chance?
You never know. Why not?
Thank you very much for having
This
us.
was really fun.
Thank
It
you,
was
Peter
fun. It
Moraidis.
was really enjoyable.
Peter Moraidis, tax partner at FL as well. Next week, we're sticking with professionals, I believe. John.
We are. Next week is a law firm, the Grand Prechate.
7 p.m. next Monday night. Don't forget today'sentrepreneur.org for over a decade worth of inspiring entrepreneur profiles. We'll see you back here next Monday night. Good night.